So today is all about curing and storing garlic. There are certain things you can do to ensure that you properly cure your garlic and it will stay for as long as possible. We generally get till about February or March before we have any issues when we harvest it on time. So I actually harvested all this garlic at the beginning of the week. And it was just laid out to dry a little bit until I had time to deal with it. Now these are all hardneck garlics. You can tell they have the scapes on the end. I cut most of the scapes and made pesto out of them, but I did miss a few. You can use it fresh right away, that's fine. As it stores and cures, it will become less sharp. I think it's a little nicer as it ages. It's also easier to peel the cloves. We were gone during the ideal time to harvest these, and some of them are a little overdone. You can tell by, see how the cloves are starting to separate? This one should have been pulled a little earlier than we did, but it's okay, we'll just eat these first. I have to look at the bright side though. One of the benefits of harvesting these late is they're all pretty dry. They dried pretty well sitting here. So normally we would have to hang these for a while. See how this one still has a bit of yellow green until this was all brown. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is cut the stem and leave all this excess material out here to compost, not haul it. We're also going to want to trim these roots down as close to the bulb as possible. And the reason for that is as they are storing, those roots can absorb moisture, and the less root there is, the less moisture they can absorb, and the longer they will store before they start to sprout. I also want to get the bulk of the dirt off of it. The soil was really dry when we pulled these out, and so there's not a lot of dirt on it besides in the roots. So these are going to be pretty easy to clean up. When cleaning these off, you just want to gently rub off the soil. You don't want to bang them on anything, especially if there's big clods of dirt still attached. Just wait till they dry out and then gently brush them off. You can use your hand, you can use a soft cloth, but you don't want to bruise. It's really important that you make sure you keep this skin on the garlic because that protects your garlic so it'll last longer. See, this one split apart and already the little skin is coming off. So we're gonna have to use this really quick. Once your garlic is peeled, it really only lasts a week. As I clean these up to get ready to take them in for curing and storing, I'm separating out the cloves that were left too long and they're starting to separate. Use these first, so they're gonna have their own separate spot. So I know when we're going to grab garlic that these are going to be first. And then the ones that are not, they get to go in their own pile. Some of these little guys are pretty tiny. I'm also going to be sorting these based on size. The largest bulbs with the largest cloves will be set aside for planting in the fall. That's going to be our stock for our next year's garlic. And we'll eat all those little tiny guys because the bigger cloves produce bigger bulbs, and so that's what we want. And I'm just going to be continuing the process until they're all done. Now for some reason, these are rotting. So these are lovely compost additions. Oops, this one went so long, the bulbs are actually falling off in my hand. Oh well. So one of the things about gardening is, if you want a vacation in the summer and things are going to need to be harvested, you have to plan for that and have somebody do it for you, or just get what you get. And I'm okay with just getting what I get. Every year I have some that just don't form bulbs, and most likely these got pulled too soon. They could have stayed a little longer. When I harvest, I just do the entire bed. And so it's just two of them, not the end of the world. We'll probably just roast these. So there's our final harvest. The ones on the left need to be used quicker than the ones on the right. They're gonna cure and store much longer because they haven't started to separate. And we've got all this wonderful pile of compostable materials, yay! Curing the garlic simply means you're drying it out so that it can store. So I just have a fold-up table on the side of my house that doesn't get any sun. It's in the shade. This is just a wire cooling rack from like cookies. We had a really great rack for a while. It was really large because it was the bottom of a pet cage, you know, like you might have rabbits or rats or guinea pigs or something, probably 2 feet by 4 feet. Eventually I would like to make myself some trays, but I haven't done that so far. So the process so far that I have is putting out a fold-up table, and then I put down cooling trays and put the garlic out there for a couple weeks to cure. How long these are going to take to cure, to dry, is completely dependent on the climate at the current time. You need to have ventilation around them so the air can circle all the way around. That's why we have the wire rack. You could also use like a wooden basket. You just don't want to put them in plastic or a box or something where there's no ventilation around the bulb. Same thing applies for storage. So we're looking for the bottom of the roots to be completely dry, which this looks okay. There's nothing wrong looking with these roots. But then the top of it, can you see how it's green in there? That's definitely not dry. Lay these all out here to dry. This one has less green in it, so this one's closer to being dry. So the long tops can be left on while you're curing them. They can be left on the whole time you have them in storage. You just want to make sure that they're really, really dry. But I like to snip them off so there's not as much vegetation to deal with. But I saw that Kiki on Urban Girl Gardening, she actually braided her hardneck garlic. Now that's usually a technique used for soft neck garlic. I'll go ahead and put a link to that in the description below because it's super cool. It's a nice way to store your garlic. So once the ends are completely dry and the bottoms are completely dry, we're gonna store them. And I like these cloth mesh bags. They're washable, so I can bleach them at the end of each season. You just pop your garlic in there and then we hang them in the garage. The reason this is good is because it allows ventilation so that the air can circulate around the garlic as they're in storage. Same thing as when they're curing. It's really important that there's that airflow. So a wooden basket, a wire or metal basket, those little mesh bags like oranges and onions and stuff come in. Any of those things are great to put your garlic in and store them. Something like this, like a plastic tub, is not good for storing garlic because it doesn't have any ventilation. This would work. It has lots of ventilation. Use what you have. They'll store best for the longest time in a dark, dry, cool place in the high 50s. So once it starts getting cooler in the fall and winter, I'll move it into our laundry room area, which is far enough away from the wood stove where it's not too warm, and out of the garage where if it gets too cold, it will actually start to sprout. Some of these garlics that need used up right away, I'm gonna go ahead and make garlic greens. And what you do is you just pop it off. We're going to water this and it's going to shoot out greens. Water it and it will start to grow greens very soon, a few days. Like a green onion, only it has a nice garlicky taste. They're really nice. I'm going to do that with a bunch of those little tiny ones. For some reason, well, I think I know why. I didn't water well this year, but we got a lot of little tiny bulbs this year, way more than ever before. So those little tiny bulbs are a pain to peel, and I think a lot of those are going to end up making garlic greens that'll just sit inside the house, and we can just snip them and add them to everything. That's all I've got for today. So until next time, see ya.